Guys, we are back at it again with another tier list video. Now, these seem to do really well. You guys seem to really like these videos. I like making them, so you know what? Why not keep pumping out the tier list content? I think it's a great time. It's fun. So for today's video, we're going to be continuing on our NFL theme because, of course, it is the NFL season. This time, we're going to be ranking NFL coaches, every coach in the league. Where do I think they truly rank? Now, I got to be honest. My knowledge about NFL coaches is not as good as my knowledge about players, obviously, because there aren't really stats and you can't. There's certain things that you can argue about coaches, like is the offense or defense, how good a team is, their wins, losses, what's indicative of a really good coach or a really bad coach. So, you know, this one's up for a lot of debates. Let me know in the comments where you agree with me, disagree with me. The opinions on this, like I said, I'm just not as confident about it, but it should still be fun. I think I know maybe a little bit, but at the end of the day, not as much as the players, but it should still be fun. Let's do this. Let's have some fun, guys. Again, like I said, let me know your opinions in the comments below. So without further ado, here is our NFL tier list. We're just going to go with the order that it is aligned. It is, I don't know, the maker of this tier list just decided to make the list this way, put all the coaches in this order or whatever. So we're just going to go with the first one. David Culley, the Texans coach. He's going to get a D because it's not his fault. The Texans, when they hired him, no one was expecting him to be good or may have the team be good because of him. But you got to be honest, where else can he be? The team's 1-7, I think, or 1-8. Who cares? They only have one win. And they just suck, okay? How can I put him anywhere higher than D? Moving on to Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer, he's been around for a while. He's been the Vikings coach for a good amount of years. He was looking like a really good coach maybe a few years ago, but they sometimes seem to disappoint a lot of years. The offense is really good, really solid, but also you could argue that could be because they have a lot of good and talented offensive players. He's more of a defensive-minded coach from what I think, and their defense in the last few years have actually been pretty disappointing, and he's kind of taken a lot of heat recently. He's kind of on the hot seat. I don't think he's quite in the D tier, but I think he's in the C tier. Average, maybe a little below average, honestly. So, yeah, he's been a little disappointing when before I would have said maybe B or A tier a few years ago, but yeah, he's kind of declined a little bit. Dan Campbell, how can you not love this guy? The Lions coach. He's a motivator. He's cool. His pep talks are great. They don't work at all because the Lions haven't won a game, and there's just nothing on his resume that I could say, wow, he's not a D-tier coach. He's better than that. You got to judge the results, the performance, and there's nothing to speak of here, okay? There's nowhere else you can put him other than D. Good guy, cool guy. I'd go grab some tacos with him, but I'm not going to rank him higher than D. I just got to be honest. Next, we have Brandon Staley, the Chargers coach, a guy who I think was the special teams coordinator of the Rams last year before the Chargers hired him. The Chargers needed a new coach because Anthony Lynn was doing a terrible job. And Brandon Staley has made the offense maybe even better than it was last year. The offense looks great. The defense, or the special teams, isn't as bad as the Chargers special teams normally is. The defense isn't that good, and recently, last couple weeks, they haven't played as well. So maybe a few weeks ago, I would have said maybe even A tier. I think he's in the B tier. I think he's a smart coach. He's a good young coach. They move the ball. They look like a good team most of the time. So I think that's where he belongs. But maybe he moves around depending on. I need a few more coaches to maybe compare to, but probably staying in B tier. John Harbaugh, I think, is a great coach. He's been the Ravens coach for a long time. He has a Super Bowl ring, which can really help your case for S tier. I wouldn't say it's a requirement for S tier, but it's going to help. So the only question is, do we put him in A or S tier? So he has a Super Bowl, always has a consistently good defense, and in the last few years, a great offense. Is he in the A tier or S tier? This is kind of tough. You know what? I'm going to put him in the S tier. I mean, he's got a ring, great defense consistently, trusts his quarterback, like, he's bold, good offense and good defense most of the time, a winner, consistently good team. I think John Harbaugh's in the S tier. Mike Tomlin might have been higher a couple years back, kind of like Mike Zimmer. But I think because that offense has been so bad the last couple years and almost unwatchable, they don't move the ball. Yes, part of it is because Ben Roethlisberger, Big Ben, is washed, but you can't just let the coach completely off the hook. So I may have said A tier a few years ago, but I think I'm going to put him in the B tier because he is a champion. He does have a ring. He's been their coach for a long time. Always seems to have a really good defense. So I'll give him that. But that offense has just been so bad that I can't put him in the A or S tier if half of one side of the football is going to struggle that much. He's got to have some accountability, take some accountability for that. So I got to just keep him in B tier. Next we have, Zach Taylor, the Bengals coach. Oh, this is tough. I'm going to put Zach Taylor in B tier. I think he's a good young coach. The Bengals have been better than I think a lot of people thought this year. He looks like he's a good coach for Joe Burrow. That offense moves the ball really well. The defense, not great, but not terrible. So he's done a good job, especially the fact that he's young. I think he's been pretty impressive, honestly. So I'm going to keep him in the B tier or put him in the B tier. Kevin Stefanski, the Browns coach. Last year I might have said A tier. Do I put him in the A tier? I think he's a really smart coach. Good offense. Good defense. Last year, they were a really balanced team, made the playoffs. I'm going to put him in the B tier, but I don't know. I'll put him in the B tier for now. We'll see what happens. Let's compare him to some other coaches. Mike Vrabel, Titans coach. He's a great coach, I think. They're 8-2 right now. Best team in the AFC. He's led the team to the AFC Championship game a couple years ago. Last year, they made the playoffs. And so I think all 3 years he's been the Titans coach, they've been a playoff level team and maybe even a contender. He's done a great job, brilliant on offense, decent on defense, but just a really smart coach. And it's all about the results at the end of the day. If you're a winner, if your team wins, the coach deserves credit for that. Just like on the other hand, if you lose a lot of games, the coach a lot of times has to be accountable for that. I think he's in the A tier. I don't think he's quite S tier because he hasn't won a Super Bowl and he hasn't been a coach for that long. But he's a really good coach. A tier, definitely deserves to be there. Next we have Frank Reich. I think Frank Reich's a really good coach. He was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles the year they won the Super Bowl. So that was good. That's a good thing on his resume. And I think he's done a good job on the Colts. Do I think he's as good as Mike Vrabel? Just as a head coach, I don't think his resume is quite there, but I think he's a good coach. So I'm going to put him in the B tier. I think, yeah, if you're in the B tier, you're a good coach. Like, maybe even really good, but at least good. I'm happy to have you as my coach. I would say that's the criteria for the B tier. Bill Belichick. Look, he's taken, say what you want about Bill Belichick, but come on, he's an obvious S tier. 6 Super Bowl rings, the most out of any coach. That speaks for itself. You just can't argue that. Always seems to have a great defense and a good offense. He's Bill Belichick. The breakup of Tom Brady, was he on the worst half of that, the worst end of the breakup? Yes, but you can't argue with 6 rings. Like I said, say what you want, but Bill Belichick is a brilliant coach. Brilliant, especially defensive mind, but a great offensive mind as well. He's the man. He's probably the best. Yeah, he's the best coach in the NFL, I would say. And you can argue the best of all time, but yeah, that's a topic for another day maybe. Next, we have Robert Saleh, the Jets coach, a guy that I thought would be, I think a lot of us thought, a lot of Jets fans, a lot of NFL fans thought would be a clear upgrade over Adam Gase. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to put him in the D tier because the Jets defense, which is his specialty, by the way, former defensive coordinator of the 49ers, he's done a terrible job defensively. I know it's not all his fault, but the Jets have allowed like 45 points or more, I think 3 times this year, 2 or 3 times. They look like the worst defense in the league, which is his specialty, and the offense is still stagnant and bad, and there's just, the Jets, after the Texans, are probably the worst team in the league, I would say. So there's just nothing he's done that can be considered impressive or higher than the D tier. Next, we have Brian Flores. I think Brian Flores is a really good coach. He looked better last year and like maybe 2 years ago. This year, it's not all his fault because Tua's not playing that well, but I might have said he's a candidate for A tier, but I'm going to keep him in the B tier. I think he's a solid coach. Dolphins aren't playing that well this year, so I don't think I can put him higher than that. But he's a good coach, and they made a really good hiring him a few years back. Vic Fangio, the Broncos coach, he's a great defensive mind. I think he's a brilliant defensive mind. Offensively, not so much. And I feel like a lot of Broncos players and the team, they're kind of a very B-tier caliber team. They're always solid, seemingly. So I think that's where Vic Fangio deserves to be. We already have a lot of B-tier coaches, but hey, I kind of expected that to be the common ranking. We have a lot of good coaches in the league, and I feel that there's not as many great coaches and bad coaches as just good coaches. Next we have, okay, this is not updated. John Gruden. I can't rank him, but who's the other? I'm sorry, I don't even know the Raiders coach. I'll like edit that in his name, but he just hasn't coached for long enough to know. So let's just put him in C tier. The Raiders coaching team overall in C tier, because that's more of like an unknown. He kind of deserves his own. The Raiders coach kind of deserves his own kind of tier for unknown, because it's only been a couple games. But we'll just keep him in C tier for now. Who's that? Is that Matt LaFleur, the Packers coach? Okay, he's taken a lot of criticism because of last year's playoff decision to not go for it on 4th down. But overall, he's a great coach. He's in the A tier. I mean, he kind of helped revitalize Aaron Rodgers' career, established a really good run game in Green Bay when for several years before with Aaron Rodgers, they didn't have a good run game. So yeah, he's just a brilliant young coach, I would say. Definitely in the A tier because, look, he's been the coach for 2 years. I mean, the last 2 years, which were his first 2 years as an NFL coach, they make the NFC Championship, and they're a contender this year, the #1 seed in the AFC. I mean, did I say AFC? NFC. At the making of this video, I think it's fair to put him in the A tier. I think he's a great coach. Next, we have Matt Nagy, a coach on the hot seat. I would say, is he in the D tier or C tier? I think that's the only question. He's looked a little better. I'm going to put him in the C tier. They did win a division with him. With Mitchell Trubisky a few years back, they did end up making the playoffs, and he looked like a really good coach. He was more on the hot seat a few weeks ago, maybe with Andy Dalton, but Justin Fields has looked pretty good the last couple weeks. I'm gonna give it. I'm not gonna put him in the D tier with the Robert Salehs and of the world. I'll put him in C tier just out of the fact that he does have something on his resume. They did make the playoffs last year, and in 2018 they won the division. So I can't say he's that bad. So Bruce Arians is the next coach, the Bucs coach, formerly the Cardinals coach. I would have probably said B tier. I think Bruce Arians has always been a solid coach, but now he is a Super Bowl champion, so I think that warrants the upgrade to A tier. Does he? Is he one of the lower ranking A tier coaches? Yes, because that defense isn't always great, and sometimes he does throw his players under the bus. And by sometimes, I mean actually pretty often when he throws, he's always kind of blaming his players, which I'm not a big fan of. I think as a coach, sometimes you just have to bite your tongue, but I guess he doesn't do that. So yeah, but we're going to keep him in A tier. Sean Payton is another A tier coach. He is a Super Bowl champion. Is he actually S tier or... I'm going to keep Sean Payton in the A tier just because even though his team is always good and he has won a Super Bowl and everything, I think the last few years when they've made the playoffs, he's been kind of a disappointing playoff coach in terms of that offense and defense just doesn't play as well up to the standard that he normally coaches them towards in the regular season. So he's taken some criticism about that, but he's still a great coach. I put him in the A tier. And like I said, he is a champion. Then we have another champion, Pete Carroll. Is Pete Carroll A tier or S tier? I don't know. Is he better than Sean Payton? Guys, let me know. Who's a better coach, Pete Carroll or Sean Payton? You know what? I'll put him in the S tier. Why not? I mean, he's a champ. He's made 2 Super Bowls. I mean, he always seems to have a good team. And the Legion of Boom, he just has a good resume. Players love him. But I don't know. I think, yeah, we'll keep him there for now. We move on to Kyle Shanahan. I think his first year was his best year as a coach. The Niners made the playoffs, and I think he's a really good offensive mind. I don't think he's quite S tier. I'm going to put him in the A tier, but I think he's a really good coach. Really good offense, defense, knows how to run the ball, a lot of good trick plays, and just definitely a creative coach and a smart coach. So I'll keep him in the A tier. the Niners coach. I think that's where he belongs. Sean McVay, I think Sean McVay's S tier. I know he hasn't won a Super Bowl. He's been to one, but he kind of is a revolutionary coach. He kind of made teams want to hire young coaches. When he was only 30 years old when the Rams hired him, he's just a genius, brilliant offensive mind, just overall great coach. Players love him. Just such an impactful coach that kind of changed the game. Said, hey, like, he basically made the statement or proved that age is just a number in terms of being really knowledgeable, just super mature and just a great coach, especially for how young he still is. So yeah, Sean McVay's awesome. I think he's in the S tier. Cliff Kingsbury. Okay, Cliff Kingsbury I think was hired because of Sean McVay. He's kind of another one of those young coaches. I think he's a great coach. I think their offense, especially this year, you see for the Cardinals, the offense has been great. The defense has been surprisingly good. He's a quarterback whisperer, great with quarterbacks, and he's kind of helped turn Kyler Murray into an MVP candidate. The only reason I'm gonna put him in the A tier is because they are gonna make the playoffs this year, obviously, but he hasn't coached a single playoff game, and it's only his third year, so we maybe need a little bit more time. But he's a great coach, and you can tell, and he looks good while doing it. Hey, if this was a tier list for best-looking coaches, he's in the S tier. I mean, he's got the looks, the hair, he's always got cool-looking glasses that are definitely way too expensive for me to own. But yeah, he's a great coach. Yeah, we'll keep him in the A tier. Mike McCarthy, he's doing better this year as the Cowboys coach than years past. Is he in the B tier? Okay, he does have a Super Bowl, and the Cowboys do look good this year, so he's had some good moments, really good moments. So I think he's done more than the C tier coaches. So I think for that reason he deserves to be in the B tier. Next we have, is that Ron Rivera? Okay, Ron Rivera, he has a good resume. He's been around for a long time. As the Panthers coach, he did lead them to a Super Bowl. Always seems to have a good defense. Not really this year, though. And just a really good, solid veteran coach. I think he deserves to be in the B tier. I think he's done enough. Next, we have Nick Sirianni. Okay. This is kind of weird because jury's still out on Nick Sirianni. Wait, that's not Nick Sirianni. Hang on. Who's that? I can't even tell who that is. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Joe Judge. I think like Daniel Jones, he's kind of like in the C tier where he's not a bad coach. I mean, per se, but he's just not doing a great job, I think, as the Giants coach. They're kind of just always average or slightly below average, and they sometimes struggle to move the ball in offense. He's a pretty good defensive coach, but I don't think he deserves to be where the B-tier coaches are. Then we have Nick Sirianni. Jury's still out on him, but the Eagles don't look great right now. They're kind of inconsistent. Some weeks they look good, some weeks they don't, kind of like Sirianni. So I don't think he deserves to be in the B tier. I'm going to put him in the C tier. Yeah, I think he's at this point, it's only fair. Next, we have Urban Meyer, who's the coach of my Jags. Look, you can talk about how he is as an actual coach on the field, but let's be honest, he joins these guys as an S tier coach. He's done a great job. He's really good with the collegiate women of the world. He's great with college girls. So I think definitely deserves to be an S tier. Forget about what he does on the field. He's just the man. S tier for sure. So Matt Rule. See, with Matt Rule, it's kind of like the jury's still... Okay, fine. How many of you guys actually thought I was going to keep Urban Meyer the S tier? He's in the D tier. He's not a very good coach, and I don't think he'll make it past this year, but I'm proud to have him as my coach because he's hilarious. But yeah, he hasn't done a good job. Matt Rule, jury's still out on Matt Rule. He looks, in the first 3 weeks, he was probably at least a B tier coach. He looked really good. Looked like he was the quarterback or the Sam Darnold whisperer. Then they end up losing 3 games in a row, and then last week they beat the Cardinals, and so it looks good, doesn't look good, looks good. I think it's been inconsistent. It is just his first year. I think he's a pretty good coach, but I'm going to put him in the C tier, kind of like Sirianni, because they're still new coaches, and I just don't think they've done enough to be in the B tier. Next, we have Andy Reid. There we go. That is another S tier coach. Andy Reid was probably an S tier coach before he won the Super Bowl, but now he definitely is. He's been a coach forever. Always seems to make the playoffs. Always has a good team. Gutsy coach. Usually makes great calls. Bold and great calls. I mean, they're always a playoff team. 2 Super Bowl appearances in a row. He's a champion. He's got the pedigree. He deserves to be in the S tier. Then we have Smith, who's... I can't even... Wait, what? Oh, Arthur Smith. I'm sorry. The Falcons coach. He's all right. He's a pretty good offensive coach. Defensively, they're terrible. He's the Falcons coach. How can he be higher than C if you're the Falcons coach? I'm sorry. I don't know that much about him, but the result is what it is. And so, yeah, I can't put him higher than that. Sean McDermott. Okay. The Bills coach. Okay. Is he in the S tier or is he in the A tier? I'm going to put him in the A tier. Okay, but he's close because he's turned Josh Allen into a great quarterback, great offense. The Bills have been contenders last year. They became a contender. This year they're a contender. He brings it. He's just a great overall coach, great defense and great offense, but not quite S tier. But I think maybe someday he can be there. So I don't know. I'm not super confident that this is, in my opinion, like I said, but I tried my best. Let me know, guys. I think it looks like a pretty decently balanced tier list. So yeah, I think that's where everyone belongs. Yeah, in my opinion. I don't know. Let me know, guys. But this was fun. I love doing tier list videos. If you guys like sports, maybe hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you like the video, leave a like. But guys, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.